Hi, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. This is episode 3 of the Really, Really Badly podcast. And today, Brandon and I are going to be talking about creativity as just a pretty broad overview. A lot of our topics have been broad lately. We're still getting this thing on our feet. We're going to be talking about why it's important to be creative, what that means to be creative, how you can in your own life, why starting off as being bored might be a great place to start for creativity if you're having trouble with that in your own life. We do have a little bit of audio difficulties because our Skype gave out and we froze around the 45-minute mark. We cut it out as best we can, try to be a little bit humorous with it, so we appreciate your patience with that. Once again, thanks. Let's get it started.
The future is now.
The future.
The future. Cool. Well, this is episode 3 now of the Really, Really Badly podcast.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. You guys, those of you listening can't see, but Travis just flashed me the number 5, which I don't know what that means.
I flashed you, and then I showed you the number 5.
Right, that's what I meant.
Oh.
It was. Or was that a high five?
Yeah.
That would have made more sense.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, episode 3. I think hopefully any of the weird bugs we might have had in our other 2 will be worked out in this third one.
That is our hope. Technology is frustrating as always, but I think we got it finally figured out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Today we're talking about creativity as a somewhat broad topic, but the title that I came up with, I'm hoping we'll catch on. You can tell me what you think. Is creativity. Being bored is a good start. Yeah.
I like it.
Cool. That's all I needed. Yeah. So, talking about creativity, I guess just to jump in, like, what is creativity to you? Just basic.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Brandon. It just so happens I did a little bit of research on what the word creativity means.
Wow.
Oh.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, so I looked up 2 definitions for the word create, and I got a couple interesting things. So this is from dictionary.com, and it says,
Okay.
as a verb, to cause, to come into being as something unique that would not naturally evolve or that is not made by ordinary processes. To evolve from one's own thought or imagination as a work of art or invention. And then from Merriam-Webster, to bring into existence,
Mm-hmm.
To invest with a new form, office, or rank, to produce or bring about by a course of action or behavior. So that's like pretty much what I would have expected right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
To produce through imaginative skill. That was a good one. But when I was reading an article, and I actually can't remember which article it was now, or it might have just been in my research of what it means, the definition. But I read somewhere that our word create originally comes from the Latin word, and I'm going to butcher this bad, but crescere,
Okay.
a crescere,
A crescere.
if you're Italian. Actually, no, yeah, that isn't it. Okay, sorry. Crescere is an Italian word, but it comes from that Latin word that's spelled exactly the same way, but it has a little above the E, the first E.
Okay.
Anyway, that Latin word means to grow, increase, or expand. Or another definition was to grow something, to cultivate. And I thought that was kind of interesting because I think when I think about creativity, or at least I think when a lot of people think about it, you think of people who are either naturally creative or naturally not as creative. And I guess I've always thought of that as something that is kind of just more set. Like you're either just kind of born a really, really creative person. But I thought that was kind of interesting because to grow or cultivate kind of shows that it can, expand or be, you can hone that skill. It's more of a skill, which when I think about it, I think that's pretty true. I mean, I think, there's a few areas I guess in my life where I'd say I've improved creativity.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I to create something, and it's a skill that can be molded or improved.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, I really like that definition of to bring something into being, just like something wasn't there before, but because, someone built it or conceived of it or, worked on it or grew it, now it does. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes me think of especially like old time Renaissance inventors who invented all those crazy machines, like, Leonardo da Vinci and stuff like that. And I should also say there's also an aspect of creativity though that I think can be to solve problems. I think that's a big one too. Which isn't so much like art focused, or like music or kind of like that sort of creating or being creative. But, engineers can be incredibly creative people who are figuring out how to solve a problem, or, a computer programmer who figures out how to write code to fix something, or, whatever. And I think that's definitely still under that umbrella of being creative, finding solutions to things. Totally.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, so that's kind of the what is it? It's kind of basic form and not so basic forms. I figured I'd just start with the why too while we're at it, so like we kind of know what it is, and like you said, some people may think of themselves as not as creative as some others, and some people might be like, oh yeah, I know that I'm creative. But why should people want it? Why? I think it's a very good thing for people to cultivate a greater sense of creativity, but I guess I just start with like the why sort of thing. So do you want to maybe start us off there?
How about I follow up?
Cool. Sounds good.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm just kind of asking the question.
I feel like I just talked a bunch, so I like hearing you talk.
Cool. I'll just go into it then.
Okay.
You kind of already said one helps us solve problems, right? It kind of creativity is a way that we can kind of like find a new perspective to see something, and find a way to kind of solve our problems with it. And I think that those problems could take tons of different forms. If you feel like you're in a rut in your life, just emotionally, you can use creativity to find something new. Money troubles, or like deficits in a budget, like I'm working on a play right now and, we're $4,000 over budget. Well, we got to get creative, like what jobs can we do ourselves, or what jobs can we give volunteer help with, just things like that. Um, yeah. And kind of going along with that, I would say that it's like creativity kind of frees us up from believing that the way that things are the way that they're always going to be. If that kind of makes sense. Like, because I think that sometimes we can get really caught in like a way of feeling like, oh, well, how my life is now is how it always will be. Or like, because I feel stumped about this one problem in my life, like it'll never change. But if we're good at like practicing creativity, and, can see things in different ways, then it can kind of help us get out of that rut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Those are kind of my whys. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I have, sorry.
No,
nice,
it's fine.
I like that nice pregnant pause. It's good. I had some reasons as well. They were more like why it's important reasons, which I guess can be a why.
Mm-hmm.
But just going off what you said there, that last one you said kind of get us out of this rut. I mean, when you said that, that made me think of, or, like not accepting the way things are. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was an Art of Manliness one, and I can't remember exactly what they were talking about. It was this guy who's now, he does it like YouTube, like fashion tips for men, like the ordinary Joe Schmo or something like that. I actually haven't finished it, but he originally was in kind of like the fitness like industry, like working out, that sort of thing. And he was in Brett, the guy who hosts the podcast, asked him kind of his story, and it was super interesting to me to hear this guy's story because he basically had tried like 2 or 3 businesses before he found YouTube as a good platform and talking more about men's fashion or style. He was trying to do like these fitness centers, and like 2 or 3 of his businesses, like he either had to like he left either for personal reasons or like went bankrupt. He personally filed bankruptcy. Like one of them failed, and it struck me as odd as like, man, these people who become like, and he's like huge on YouTube, like over 1 million followers, like absolutely ginormous, it was just super interesting for me to hear this, because you just don't think of like the failure, or like how many times did this guy try something and it failed, and maybe that he was obviously a creative enough person to not accept just the way things were and just go get a job somewhere that maybe wasn't in what he wanted to do in this kind of fitness, like outward appearance sort of industry, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought, so that made me think of that guy, like these people who are, I really think it can help you get out of a rut. Yeah, it can help you get past something. Again, it's kind of like that problem solving thing. Like if you feel like you're in a rut and unsatisfied with X, Y, or Z, or want to change something, start practicing being creative, because you'll probably find that there's options you wouldn't have otherwise seen.
Yeah.
And I think that creativity is one of those things, because again, you immediately kind of think, or at least I do, like of like arts and crafts or music or performance. And I'm like, okay, well, that's all great and dandy, and the people who do that well is awesome. But I work operations at an airport. So like, what does creativity, or what would like honing my creative skill really have anything to do to benefit me, other than just because I enjoy it or something?
Right.
And I found this really interesting article on psychologytoday.com that basically just gives a bunch of reasons why creativity is the article title is called "Is Creativity the Number One Skill for the 21st Century?" ? And basically this guy is just arguing why it's very important, and almost all of his reasons have to do with like corporate work. He talks about it being like, it's how organizations strategize. He argues that profitability rests on individual creativity, like profitability of the organization. It makes teams perform better and more efficient. And when you think about it, really, I mean, that is kind of businesses, like any business that has some kind of edge on the industry is going to have that edge because of something creative, right? I mean, we were just talking about Uber earlier.
Right.
They had it. I mean, that is an incredibly creative idea, like to come up with something like that just completely has this totally weird edge on the rest of the competition. And, Uber, Lyft, and there's some third one I don't know about, but these are out the big, like, super highly evaluated companies out there right now, tech companies, and they creativity was, I'm sure they would say it was their number one asset. So I thought that was really interesting, thinking about, okay, I'm more of in like a business, or I'm probably going to be more in like business for the rest of my life, not so much a like creator of things, but how thinking creatively in a business setting can really, really, catapult you somewhere else. So even if your thing isn't art or music or performance or whatever, I think this is still a pretty relevant topic.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree. I would also say that, like, even if your job now, or your job for the next 50 years, generally you don't use your creativity quite as much as you'd like. Even if that's the case, I would say that, like, being able to be creative at home, or on your personal time, like, would be really life-giving, I would say. Like, you're being creative can, find its way into the kitchen sort of thing, like just the way you like do food or like drinks or parties with people, like your hobbies, just like what you find interesting, like I think sometimes we get really caught up in how mundane everything is, and we don't, like, I don't know, it's kind of difficult for us to branch out because we're tired from work or whatever. But I think that being able to follow our curiosity and like what we find new and interesting is really helpful. And being able to do it in a creative way, if nature has always kind of inspired you, then, try photography,
right.
If, I don't know, if you really like music, then get a Spotify account and like be sure you listen to one new band every week or something like that. I think that, kind of following your curiosity, the things that you're interested in, like, I think that even that can in itself can be really fulfilling,
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Cool. So creativity is a good thing. I think we just decided.
Yeah, it's settled.
Yeah, it's settled. The motion's carried.
I'm going to allow this.
Motion carried.
So I have a question now.
Okay.
How?
Oh boy.
Do you do creativity?
Is that the end?
Yeah. Question mark.
Okay. Oh, got it. Okay. I didn't hear the upwards.
Right. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I need to work better on my inflection.
How do you do creativity? Well, being bored is a good start.
I hope we can have like some sparkling graphic like go across
Yeah.
the screen.
Yeah. I need a little like
yeah.
noise. The more you know.
So why do you say that? Why do you say being bored's a good start? I agree with you a lot, and I have a great example, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I will tell you.
If I shut up.
Travis, I love it when you talk. Don't even.
I love it when you tell me to shut up. So please do it.
It's not going to happen, man. being bored is a good start. So the reason I say that is because, at least I found in my life lately, there's so much distraction all the time. And to go further with that, there's so much entertainment in my life all the time. Like, I think I saw the stats on my phone the other day. Oh, man, I totally forgot. I forgot about that until like just now. My phone keeps track of how many times I open an app. Like, I don't know.
Keep track of that?
I know, yeah. I don't know why my phone would do that, but it does. And can you guess which app was the most used on my phone?
My first guess is Facebook.
Okay, you'd be wrong.
Then Instagram.
Easy. Yeah, I had opened up Instagram, and I don't know if this is like, I don't know if this is like I close the app, from running in the background, and then I reopen it, and like that counts as one, or if it's like I minimize it and then come back to it. And that
right. Okay.
My hope is that it's the latter.
The minimize, yeah.
Yeah, but I've opened Instagram, and I've only had this phone like a few months. I've opened Instagram like 260 times.
Nice. In those few months, or
in those few months?
Okay.
I also wiped it at some point.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I guess that's not as dramatic as a number, but anyways.
I was like waiting for something huge.
Yeah.
But no. I used to open Instagram so much. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I still do. And like I catch myself when I have nothing to do.
Right.
Or even when I'm like on my way to somewhere, I'm like on Instagram. And I'm like, why am I looking at Instagram right now? Like I could look where I'm going. I could just be a person and observe the world, But anyways, to kind of bring it back, like there's so much entertainment and so much content out there from our phones, from our laptops, from things like that, even when I'm bored, I'm not really bored because I'm like consuming something.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm constantly downloading things into my head and consuming it, And the other day, I just kind of was like, I was in my room and I'd run out of things to do, and I didn't know what like my evening was going to be, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to let myself be bored for like 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit here and be a boring person, on a Friday night. Like I should be out doing all this stuff or whatever, but I'm just going to sit here. And like, I just kind of let that happen. And when I did, I kind of thought of a few different things that I could be doing, like constructive things, creative things.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't feel like working on the to-do list or whatever. Like I'd done that all week. So I was looking for something fun to do. And, from there, I, pulled out one of those adult coloring books and listened to some music. And then that kind of got me inspired to do something else. And so I kind of got this idea that like, okay, so maybe for the millennial generation, those of us who were kind of raised with this technology and who are kind of glued to it, maybe being bored is like a good starting point.
Yeah.
It's my theory.
No, I think I totally agree with that. I mean, I think you're right. We have so many opportunities to just constantly be just inundating ourselves with information. And it's not even what like, I mean, I find a lot of times it's not even like what I want to be doing. So like, for instance, and this is like embarrassing to say, but right, I was just in Chicago last week, and that when we had downtime in between like things that we were doing, like I downloaded this stupid like little like game, and it's like dumb. Like you like have this like little city, and you're just like press this like build button like over and over and over and over again. And every time you build something, you get like a little bit more money, but then like to build another thing, it's more expensive. You just like, it's like so dumb. It's like, it's way, way simple and stupid.
Yeah.
But I found myself like pulling it out whenever I was just kind of like sitting around not doing much. And it wasn't even really what I wanted to do. Like, I think it's stupid. I think what I'm doing is, but it's like, no, I have nothing else better to do. So I'm like, put my thing, you know, build. And like, you know, I caught myself once. We were like riding the train, right, in this city I've like only been to once before. And I'm just like sitting here on my phone rather than like engaging with Megan, who I was with, or like looking out at the window, which would have probably been more interesting anyway. Like, maybe if I was engaged with Megan, yeah, it might have been like silent for a little bit, like you said. But then when you like kind of let that, I don't know if you want to call that boredom, but kind of just empty space be there, eventually it would lead to some kind of conversation that's probably, you know, way more interesting than pressing a same button on my phone. And I think, I mean, I think I do that a lot with a lot of things, you know, like a lot of my, what I would call hobbies. I kind of just like let them, they just become like my natural like default of what I do when I don't think I have anything else to do. And I think you're right. If you could let yourself be bored for just a little bit, you could probably do something that's way more fulfilling, or find something that you can create or be creative with that contributes to more than just entertaining yourself and you know, endlessly.
Totally. And like, and in defense of social media and things like that, like my roommate John, he makes these like short 15-second like mini films, and he calls them Days of My Lives, you know.
That's so good.
Yeah, they're so funny. And like, you know, so that's not to say that like Instagram and or Snapchat or whatever can't lead to creativity. I think it really can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even like, you know, being able to take photos, you know, like really good photos that like bring you joy and make you feel kind of creative, you know, and sharing that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, that's why like social media and all these apps can be like really cool, obviously, and very helpful. They're not all bad. But yeah, like you were kind of saying, like, what do you actually want? You know, what's going to bring you joy, and kind of, and again, cultivate that sense of creativity and creation. And yeah, I don't know. So it's just kind of how you use it. And I think
exactly.
Yeah. And if you like can take those few minutes to be bored or whatever, and to kind of center yourself and think like, okay, what do I actually want to do? You know? Yeah, maybe I think that can help.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it is a tool, and I agree. Right. There's a difference between sitting and scrolling through something and contributing your own thoughts, ideas, or images, or like whatever it might be, videos. Because obviously, yeah, like your roommate, that's super creative. Like, his videos are hilarious. They're way creative. They're amazing. But there's a difference between, you know, like me opening up Instagram for the 10th time today, and there not even being a new picture on the screen. Like, I'm just like immediately like, oh, like I already saw this thing that's on my phone, but I'm going to open it anyway 5 minutes later, versus me going out, taking a picture, finding something to create, to add to that, you know, platform of social media thing, which is, you know, is probably way more fulfilling than opening it up for the 10th time to see nothing new. Just because I'm bored, you know? So yeah, I totally agree that I think that for people who want to be creative, but don't know how or where to start, let yourself be bored, you know? I think we all have ideas, but unless you give yourself the space in your head to think of those things, they're not going to come to the surface, you know? If we're constantly pressing them down with all these other things, it's just not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
And I think another one too is, I just thought of this. If I would have thought of this before, I would have looked it up. There was some book I read in school that basically, and I don't remember the title or anything, but he talks about connections and how connections are made and like how ideas are formed. And basically the author's arguing that, when a new idea comes into place, it didn't just like come, it wasn't just some like revelation, that light bulb moment someone had, but it was a culmination of things leading up to that point. So either a conversation they had with somebody where they take a little piece of that, make a connection with something that they were thinking about earlier, and that connects to something they saw, and then like over, and he talked about how sometimes these things can have like like long time frames, you know, like a year before, you know, this like idea will hit you is what we say. But really it's like this culmination of a bunch of different things. And so I think another thing with letting yourself be bored, I think also doing things like, you know, having conversations with people, or, you know, making your fun activities, enjoy them with somebody else, because other people are going to bring things to the table that you wouldn't have thought of before that are going to help spark that creativity, you know. I mean, that's kind of why they have like think tanks, you know, to get a bunch of people to work together, because ideas will bounce off each other. So
totally. And I would just add to that, like, there's this concept in I did improv, like acting sort of thing for a while, like live comedy improv, and it wasn't, I don't do it so much anymore. It's pretty nerve-wracking, pretty terrifying to be honest. But one of the things that they always talk about is the yes and concept.
Okay.
And the idea of it is that, like, for a troupe of improvers to work, we need everyone on board to, like, whatever the first person starts doing in the scene or whatever, we need to come in and say, like, yes and this other thing, like, and yes and this other thing. And I think it's just a really cool, like, basic concept of, like, if you're working with someone on a project or something like that, it's definitely most helpful if you don't immediately shoot down their idea, or if you don't immediately, like, judge the idea, or even your own idea, you know, like, if something comes up, or if you try something, if you immediately, like, shoot down that idea, that just kind of cuts creativity right off, you know?
Right.
But if you can be the type of person who says yes and, you know, and you might find a better option than what you started with.
Right,
you know,
right.
That doesn't mean you have to, like, accept everything blindly, but if you can be the kind of person who kind of holds off on judgment at first, you know.
I like that.
Yeah. That always stuck with me, that idea.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes back to that whole idea of growing and cultivating something, right? Like, when you start growing something, it's not what it's going to be. It's something different. But, you know, if you put a seed in the ground and be like, it's not a tree, I'm going to dig it up and throw it away, it'll never change to be a beautiful butterfly someday. Anyway.
That was a really good analogy. I love that. Man, you won't get butterflies from seeds.
Yeah.
If you
don't even try.
Dig them up.
Learn your lessons from me.
Oh man, that was great.
And yeah, and the one thing I would say too is, you know, there's nothing wrong with, obviously, with entertainment, and this is kind of getting into maybe like a totally another topic, or we could definitely make another topic of this, but you know, entertainment is good. It can help with creativity. It can help inspire. A lot. It can help you learn. I mean, it can help you just relax. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just helping you relax right after a good day of work or something. But
totally.
But, like, entertainment just for entertainment's sake, when you have nothing else to do or whatever, or if it's the only thing you ever do, it cannot be. It can eventually just be not a good thing, and you won't even enjoy it as much as you did or whatever. You know, I mean, for me, I think of video games. Like, I play a fair amount of video games, and there's definitely times I feel like it's always kind of one of these, like, you know, curves that happens, but there's times where, like, I'll just, like, play so much, and then I'll be like, why? Like, I'll find myself being like, this isn't, like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not having fun. I'm not feeling relaxed. I'm just doing this because, you know, like, just because it's like a habit or something. And I think one of the main driving forces of wanting to start this for me, this website, podcast, blog, whatever it's going to be, was feeling bored, you know? This was kind of back more when I had my previous job, where I just felt like I'd go in, like, cram out a bunch of work. There wasn't a whole lot of room necessarily within that job to be creative. It was just doing a process over and over again. And then I'd come home, I'd eat and play video games, and then, like, do it all over again, 5 days. And then, and I just, over time, it was just like, okay, and it's not that my job needed to be this like crazy fulfilling thing, but in my pastime, I wasn't doing anything else to help fill those spaces. So I found myself becoming very anxious and very bored and very like, there's got to be something else. I want to do something else. I want to create something. I want to contribute to something. I don't want to just keep consuming. I want to contribute. And that's, and through that, doing that for however many months that was, I, kind of decided that maybe this is something I'd like to do. I love listening to podcasts. I do it all the time when I'm driving. Maybe starting one and actually, instead of just listening and consuming, which isn't a bad thing, especially I think with podcasts, you can learn a lot from podcasts, depending what you're listening to. But deciding to contribute to something, to create something, to bring into being something else, and so far it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I definitely could put a lot more time into it, and I probably should be, to get it kicked off. But like what we've done so far has been so good, so much better than just doing things just because that's what I've been doing or because I have nothing else to do.
Totally.
And finding that it isn't giving me what I even am doing it for,
Totally.
So.
Yeah. Well, I just look at like, what have humans been doing since we came into existence, right?
Yeah.
We build crap. We, find
solve
better
problems.
Yeah. Machines, just like we create, like there's kind of what we're meant to do. And I think that when, like you said, if we get stuck in a rut of just like doing the same thing and we're not really seeing anything built because of it or whatever, like, it can be so fulfilling. I just think that's just kind of in our nature to create and do and get meaning out of that.
Yeah. And I had a thought today, and this could like starts to go into like another topic, but I think it does apply in some sense. I was, and there's nothing wrong with this. I've done this myself. Like I've yet to work a job for more than like 6 months since being on the workforce. Hopefully this current one will change because I enjoy it a lot. But I was reading someone's Facebook post and the way that they worded it, I'm trying to remember, but it was something like, while working at this place has been great for the last few months, like I've felt that it's time for my next big adventure. So I'm going back to school for this or whatever. And it like struck me as odd because I was like, man, I see this and I feel this in myself. I see this in our generation kind of specifically so much. People either going back to school for something completely different or just change. I mean, like me, like I've changed jobs, 3 jobs with it, every 6 months. And I just wonder if part of that is because of this lack of creativity that we have, or this lack of trying to be creative, because again, I think there's a very fulfilling nature in creating something and working at something to achieve like a result that makes you feel really good. I mean, I think about the couple times I've repaired something on my car. Like I'm not a mechanic at all, but I bought this instruction book thing, bought the part, figured it out. It took me way longer than it should have, but I like if you were to ask me what the most satisfied I've ever felt probably in my entire life, it wouldn't be like graduating and getting a degree. Like I'd be like, oh, it was when I replaced my fuel pump, because I remember the moment that I was like had it. Like I mean, I spent 4 days on this thing, underneath my car, like swearing, cussing, like being like, I don't know where this thing is I'm looking for. I have no idea what I'm doing, feeling totally lost, and then finally like getting to the point where, okay, I'm sitting in my car, I'm going to start it, and if it starts, I know it worked. And turning that key and hearing it all start up and being like, holy crap, like I just did that, and it wasn't even necessarily my own creativity because I was following an instruction book, but you kind of get the point of like creating something. I think there's a lot of fulfillment that comes in that. And I think with all of this entertainment and technology, we kind of just have this lack of people creating and building and achieving and solving. And I wonder if partly it seems like our generation does struggle with this restlessness, this not feeling like what we're doing is, doing it for us. So we move to the next thing. And we can never allow ourselves to become content with something that we are doing. So we just kind of bounce from thing to thing to thing. I mean, that's what I've been doing. Maybe this podcast thing is finally like going to give me enough fulfillment to kind of settle, or I don't know. And it's just
Yeah,
kind of
who
an
knows?
observation. I'm sure there's other contributing factors or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of them,
Totally.
Um,
Interesting. I mean, it's all about balance, right? Like, and
Oh yeah, totally.
you know, sorry, that's such a cliche. I
Dude,
get annoyed when people use it sometimes.
I
just
use
it.
that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's true,
It
right?
is true, yeah. Cliche
Yeah.
for a reason.
Totally. But yeah, like that, even just starting this, like you were saying, and starting this production company with my roommates, it's just kind of shown me like having something that I'm building or being creative in, or just using other parts of my brain is like just such a necessity. Like, and whether this is the thing or not,
Mm-hmm.
or whether the job I have right now is the thing, the job or not.
Right.
Regardless of that, it's such a good lesson to be reminded of, and that I'll probably have to keep on learning over and over,
Right.
because we get comfortable, right? We'd rather be comfortable than creative sometimes, I think, but
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
I have a quote that I found from Pablo Picasso. That he says, where did it go? Oh, okay. I like this. He says, every child is an artist. The problem is to remain an artist once they grow up. And I had found
So good.
someone had used this quote in one of the articles I was using up, but instead of artist, they said like every child is creative. The problem is to remain creative once they grow up. So I think they changed it a little bit because the article was about creativity, or maybe they just thought it was that or whatever.
Mhm.
Anyhow, I like that because I think,
Yeah.
again, like when we, because jobs are necessary. Jobs are really good. They're so good. I
Yeah.
mean, like I have so many moments during the week when I'm just like out grocery shopping and I'm driving home with like a full car of groceries and I'm like, this is awesome. Like I'm so blessed that I have this job that I can go and I can buy things, I can provide for myself, and I can have time to like have luxury. So they're good, but I
Yeah.
do think sometimes we can let them become kind of mundane and stale, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing, which is again going back to your whole thing about balance. That's why we need to have these other things in our lives
Yeah.
to help us. And I think, that quote, remaining an artist once they grow up, or remaining creative, if you will, once they grow up, I think that's part of it, is to remember that this is something that's important. And while it may not be something that contributes to our direct, financial gains or like contribute to our job directly, it still has a very important impact to play in our life.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I think that's definitely the start of another podcast that I'd like
Yeah.
to do sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Like
We can
being
go
able
all over
stay
the place.
creative, or like keep an element of play in your life even when you grow up, or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's a great quote. I love
Yeah, it was good.
that. Cool.
I have one more, but it would be like if do you have any other thoughts right now?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So I've got,
solved it.
this might be okay to end on then, but I was on, when I was searching about creativity, for some reason, Crayola, like the crayon company, or crayon, I don't know how you say it. Crayons, like,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, your face looked like you didn't know what I was
Crayon.
talking about. I somehow got onto their website, and I saw it was either like a vision statement or a mission statement or something. But I thought it was really good. And this is just a simple company that makes crayons and markers. Like, like they're not necessarily the artists or whatever. Like they just have factories that create these crayons like that. I'm sure it's not, wow, you just melt some stuff. And I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it's interesting, but you know what I mean?
Not to us though.
Right.
I gotcha.
And anyway, so they said, this is on their website. It says, creative people invent, imagine, problem solve, create, and communicate in fresh, new ways. Every business requires creative thinkers in the form of scientists, engineers, medical researchers, technology innovators, business entrepreneurs, artists, performers, writers and illustrators, designers, inventors, educators, and parents. Those with the ability to think outside of the box will lead the future and make special things happen. And I thought that was awesome because,
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, you could read that and you would not necessarily know it was, about a crayon company. But, I just love that, will lead the future and make special things happen, kind of what we're talking about this whole time is, and I just love that quote. It's very good. And I think that's a huge reason, why creativity is good and why we should be creating and striving to create, to make new things and lead the future.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. I love it. Man. So good.
So yeah, I think that's all I got. If that's all you got.
Yeah, man. I think we both agree that creativity is it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Wait, I was arguing it's a bad thing.
Oh. Well, this is weird. You didn't do a good job, man.
I'm sorry. The last 2 times we ended with something that inspires you. Do you have anything?
Something that inspires
me. We don't
me.
have to go back and forth, but it is your turn.
It is my turn. I'll go. Sure. I already told you this, but I'll tell everyone else. Over this 2 weekends ago, I bought a kayak that folds down into like a maybe like 3 foot high box sort of thing. And it's only 30 pounds and you can carry it, just over the shoulder and fit it in any car. And it's called the Oru kayak, like origami.
Oh, and I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Because I don't have the room or the car for an actual kayak. And
right.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to exploring this summer. And I got a book on the San Juan Islands and some of the nearby islands and some of the routes and things like that along the coastline. And I'm so excited.
Nice.
Yeah, so that inspired me. And hey, that's a super. You want to talk about creativity? That's like crazy creative to fit a kayak in a box. So.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. That's awesome. That's super cool. Just don't drown, please.
Okay, fine. But I guess I froze. Anyways, don't worry, man. I got a life jacket and a bright orange whistle.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be fine.
In case that water tries raping you. You blow that whistle. Well, maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson lifeguard will come rescue you.
Oh man!
You've seen the trailers for that new Baywatch? Is that it?
Baywatch, yeah. That's my dream. To be rescued by Dwayne "The Rock."
Well, yeah, that would be nice. They're just running out of movie ideas. Yeah, so get out there and be creative and think of new movies. I'm sick of all these just random reboots,
remakes.
Like, I will never go to the theater and watch that. Like, I might Redbox it if I'm so bored I can't go be creative. I might rent it on Redbox or see it on Netflix. But it's just I'm not gonna say it's a waste. I haven't seen it. I can't say, but
yeah,
I like originality. All
right, so go out there, be creative, and make better movies than Baywatch.
Please.
All right,
now I'm going to have to go see it just so I can back up that claim.
Yeah, it ends up like winning the Oscar.
Yeah, I will go watch it, okay? I will watch it in the theaters if I can. And if it is good, I will take that back and I will make sure it is addressed on this podcast.
Okay.
So
I feel like there's got to be more at stake than just taking it back.
All right, like what?
I don't know. Like
How about this? A listener should tell us. Yeah. Suggest. Okay. This will let us know if anyone out there is listening to this.
Cool.
If you have if I'm wrong and have to eat my words, what's a good punishment? You can email reallyreallybadlypodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Right? That's our
Yeah.
email.
I don't
Hold
know.
on, I'm checking. I'm checking
We'll
really
dump it
fast.
in later, I guess.
No. Yeah. No. Sorry. Just one really. Really badly podcast at gmail.com. We thought really, really badly podcast at gmail.com would be a really, really long email address. So it's just really badly podcast at gmail.com if you have a suggestion for what I should do if I'm wrong.
If he's wrong.
Right.
Cool.
And I think Brandon should also have to partake, but that's just my 2 cents.
All right. I shall partake.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Yep. Till next time.
Yeah, till next time. We always appreciate comments, suggestions.
Yeah.
Or
What do you want to
or
hear?
anything else. Yeah.
Tell us, please.
Right.
Cool beans. All right, man. It's been
All
fun.
right. It has been fun. I love you, bro.
Love you, man.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye.
Just don't
Yeah.
drown, please.
Okay.